In a world where one's success is denoted by one's innate ability to perform special skills like ninjutsu and genjutsu, within the show Naruto, a character with no talent in either makes his mark on the audience by proving his worth through hard work and dedication, getting the ever-famous, character-defining label as the only true ninja in a world full of magicians. Last episode on the Female Genius podcast, I spent some time breaking down this notion of how we approach and think about failure, hoping providing some perspective-shifting ways that we consider the things that go wrong in our lives from a biological sense, from the way Greeks wrote their tragedies for heroes and stories, and including the way our biological systems are wired, and also philosophical perspectives, right? I wanted to spend this mini episode going in a deep dive into a case study where we can learn from how we can respond to our shortcomings and failures through one of my personal favorite characters in Naruto, Rock Lee.
Female Genius.
If you are brand new and you're watching this on YouTube, you may be watching this on my personal channel. This is a part of the Female Genius podcast, a podcast that I would describe not only just genius, but I would also describe it as, a late night FaceTime with your bestie where you talk about life and philosophy and things with your bestie that's kind of obsessed with very nerdy things and science. That is how I would describe it. There is room for so many questions and explorations where we kind of get deep, and it's funny and it's amazing and it's a great time. So welcome. So make sure you guys go check out the full episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. They'll be linked down below. I make mistakes sometimes. So when we first meet Rock Lee in the show Naruto, he feels like a character solely relegated to the role of comic relief. He has this bushy eyebrows, this bowl haircut, and he is flirting and he's being really weird and nerdy, and we just kind of think, okay, this is just a character that's going to provide us with a couple laughs as the plot slowly unfolds. However, right, during the Chunin Exam arcs, in fact, let me rephrase this, one of the best fights in the Chunin Exam arcs, I would argue it's one of the fights in the arc that makes people talk about the Chunin Exam arcs to this day. It's one of my favorite fights in Naruto, and it's the one that I will go back and rewatch the most often. It's incredible, right? Rock Lee transforms himself from comic relief to truly a defining character in this entire series. During the Chunin Exam arcs, for those who aren't familiar, Lee is pitted up against this character called Gaara, who at this point in the series has been portrayed as invincible. Nobody's been able to touch this guy, okay? As in, people have been trying to even land a blow, even land a simple nudge. Nobody's been able to get through this guy's defenses. When Lee is pitted up against Gaara, everybody, including the audience, is like, yeah, he's done for. What are we doing? This is going to be a disaster. And here comes this character Lee, who we've relegated to comic relief, who can't use ninjutsu or genjutsu, purely relying on just hand-to-hand combat skills, right? And many people think Guy is going to get absolutely crushed before the end of the episode and we have 3 minutes left. He's not a natural genius. He's not a star. He's not a main character Naruto who has the 9 tails inside of him, has this innate magical ability. He's not a genius like Shikamaru, nor does he possess those natural ninjutsu or genjutsu abilities like Neji or Sasuke. This guy is just Rock Lee. And Lee begins with determination, but Gaara is blocking every single blow until his sensei, my guy, permits him to remove his heavy ankle weight, shocking everyone in the show and us as well watching involved. What do you mean this guy has been fighting with these crazy heavy ankle weights the entire time, right? And as a result of releasing the ankle weights, he is moving at a speed that is incomprehensible to everybody in the show. Right, to the point where he is able to actually land a hit on the once thought invincible character, Gaara. I want to take a moment to pause here to kind of extract some of the lessons we can learn from Lee in this fight. Number one, the fact that he was wearing those ankle weights the entire time also provides this thought that actually every single time we've seen Lee train or fight at any point in this series, he has been wearing those ankle weights and we don't know, highlights his dedication to improve, to continue to do better, even when people aren't looking, even when he's not getting recognition from people, even when people are laughing or putting him down. He is so strongly attached to his mind about his goal of wanting to become a successful ninja that it doesn't matter if he has to put himself through hardship day in and day out. It's the fact that he's dedicated and he's consistent enough to allow himself to put himself through that. And I think that's lesson number one that we can extract from the case study of Lee. Sometimes we can be given setbacks. in the world, okay? We can lack certain gifts and things that the world supposedly predisposes us to success, okay? Like, you know, we might want to be a basketball player, but we're not as tall as we should be. We might want to be a runner, but maybe we're initially at first, not as fast as we should be. Maybe your dream is to become a musician, but you don't possess like a naturally good musical ear. That does not mean that your path is blocked off. That does not mean this path is inaccessible. It just means that you have to forge a new way around to get to where you want. It might not be a straight and direct line, but you might have to go a bit of a long roundabout way. And that's exactly what Lee is doing. And that provides a level of consistency that he continues to display from this point in the show onwards as well. As a result of removing these ankle weights, Lee is the first person to bypass Gaara's Sans defenses in the whole show. The fight does continue with Lee absolutely wowing everyone. He does unfortunately lose the match, but not without proving that he is one to watch in the show. From that point on, that guy became my favorite character. Like, I just remember being like, right, like, F everybody else, out of the way. Like, this is 100% my guy. But unfortunately, he loses the match and he's severely injured, right? His injuries are so severe that actually the medical team said he would never be able to fight again. Lee's characteristics and his character does not predispose him to this idea of I can't. He will try his absolute best despite setbacks and despite failures. Through this, he continues to train, undergoes a dangerous surgery, and again works hard to return back so he can continue pursuing his dream. The lesson here from Lee is failures and setbacks are things that do not define you, right? I think sometimes in life, when we fail at something, or, you know, we post something and we don't get as many views as we want, we don't get into our first choice of uni, or we get rejected from a bunch of them, we initially can feel very much like this is just a sign that this path isn't for me. However, Lee shows on displays through his tenacity and his dedication that if you want a path to be for you, you can make it for you. And failures and setbacks do not have to define your path going forward. They don't have to be the reason why you completely quit and give up, right? This is not to say, like, this is a little side note. I feel like sometimes we feel intense failure because we are measuring ourselves by predefined measures of success that society tells us to put on ourselves. And I spoke a little bit about this in the main long filler episode, but in the sense that sometimes we can feel like a failure because we are failing by society standards. And I think it becomes so important when we're trying to decide what we really want to dedicate ourselves to is to make sure it's something that you truly, truly, truly want. Not something society tells you to want, not something that your mom and dad want for you, but what you ultimately really want for yourself and the life that you design. If you have zero interest in becoming a musician, and then you fail your music exam every single time, and you know deep down you don't actually really want that, it becomes harder to, you know, bounce back from setbacks and, you know, move forward because you defined your self-worth by something that doesn't even really matter to you. And so I do want to provide that caveat. Being a ninja was something very important to Rock Lee. This was something deeply important to him and what he always wanted to achieve. And that is why in the face of adversity, he knew, actually, this is something that I want. And actually, I want it so much that I'm not ready to give it up. So, okay, it's going to be a very hard road for the next few years, but I'm willing to put out that sacrifice to be able to get what you want. I remember seeing an interview with Victoria Monet. Oh, guys, I have such a crush on Victoria Monet. Stop, because she might have been my bisexual awakening. But Victoria Monet had an interview where she said, would you still do the same thing if you knew it would take you 10 years to get it and not 5 years? If you knew that you would have to work and, you know, do things you don't want to do and refine skills that you're not really sure you want to refine, like, you know, go for a very long-winded path for 10 years, but you knew you were going to get it versus 5 years. Like, if you knew your path ahead was very hard and long and there would be setbacks, would you still go ahead and go after it? And those are the things you have to question and ask yourself when you're trying to decide when things are really important to you.
Female genius.
In addition to this, another lesson, a very subtle lesson I think we can learn from Rock Lee as well, is about how Lee doesn't always measure his worth by the ability to be victorious. The fact he lost doesn't actually change how he views his goals. And actually, his effort earns him respect from both his peers and the audience in a way very, very few characters in the show could earn. And so it's about integrity and effort that you put into the struggle to get to where you are. There is no such thing as an overnight success. None. Nowhere ever. I mean, I'm obsessed. When I like musicians or I like an author, or like a business person, I really like business person, I become really obsessed with finding out, like, you know, their story, what brought them to that place. And when you start getting into the habit of like reading people's stories, biographies, listening to interviews of the people that you admire so much and you put on a pedestal, or you see yourself wanting to aim to where they are, you begin to realize that their path isn't as straightforward. And actually, there are so many nights and failures and setbacks and lessons that have allowed them to progress and learn and get them to the place that they are today. And Lee, or Rock Lee, is just an example of that. I mean, I look towards Rachel Zegler, a Broadway musical theatre powerhouse. And it may seem like she just popped up in a film overnight and everybody's talking about her and she's so amazing. But actually, she was posting covers on YouTube for years. She was doing musical theatre in her local high school for years. She was doing auditions for years. And all of those failures and those feedback and all of that hard work poured into it. When her moment came, she was ready to shine in that moment. And Rock Lee is an example of that. Despite the setback, despite the failures, despite the examples, despite people laughing at him, us laughing at him, being like, who is this bushy eyebrow guy? When it came to his moment and his time to perform, to shine, to set himself apart from all of the other side characters on the show, because I'm terrible with names, by the way. I don't remember characters' names unless they're important. I remember Rock Lee's name. The dog guy, I don't remember his name. Neji's girlfriend, I don't remember. Like, I don't remember names, but Rock Lee just stands out to me. And I know that's such a silly way to measure Rock Lee's success, but I mean, it is also an animated show, so like, grain of salt, right? But real strength is revealed in persistence and spirit, not just in the outcomes that we get. This is a reminder and a motivation about how we can respond and grow from failures and setbacks. Remember, failure, as the Stoics believes, isn't inherently good or bad, as discussed last episode. It's the things that we attribute towards it. What you can do in response to failure is change your mindset and approach to see failure as a lesson rather than a threat to your being. I know oftentimes, like, because of the way our society is shaped and the way maybe our parents raised us, we can see failure as such a damning thing. Oh my God, if we fail, we're horrible. I mean, you see people having these intense panic attacks after flopping like a GCSE exam that they could retake. Do you get what I mean? And I think it's obviously disappointing when you work hard and you don't get what you want. But I also think like our brain has subconsciously wired ourselves to see failure as a threat to the potential life and things that we want to do and the existence that we want to live, rather than a lesson on how we can improve and let ourselves grow and develop as human beings. I actually started my first week of my master's, and I'm actually saving this for my next long episode because I'm doing a breakdown of my experience and my time at Cambridge. But at the University of Cambridge, like, it was survival of the fittest. It was like you perform well, and if you don't perform well, you're not supposed to be here. And if you fail, it's a mark that you are not worthy of your place here. That was the kind of energy it gave off. And I very much carried that mentality into the first day of my master's. And the energy was so different. They were very much like, this is a year of growth for you. This is a year of you figuring out what you want, learning, developing, refining your skills, and growing as an individual and as a scientist and as a human being. And even if you flop, it's fine. If you flop a module, we're going to figure out why you flopped, and then you can reset in the summer. But this is a year of growth, and I want you to remember that and to not measure your marks. Obviously, success is important and you want to do well, but actually redefine what you mean as success rather than a grade on a paper, rather than the things that you learn and you want to grow and develop in. Maybe redefine your success as that. And that is something that I think kind of encapsulates both of the two episodes. How do we see failure? What do we see as success? And how can we redefine both of those to suit our individual paths in life, and also to see failure as a lesson rather than a threat to our existence? Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this really quick mini episode. Guys, my friends are coming over. I baked a cake, I made some jello fries, I'm making some chicken. It's going to be great. And yeah, and for all of you guys who haven't checked out the Female Genius podcast, you guys should, because it's pure genius. I mean, it's a failure for you to not have listened to the Female Genius podcast before, but actually you can learn from this failure and go and listen to the podcast. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you guys next time on the Female Genius podcast.